Want to achieve network marketing success? Then you're in the right company. Hello, and welcome to Leave Nothing to Chance, hosted by networking marketing giant John Solider. Learn everything you need to know about the network marketing space from somebody who's actually done it. Join us every week for front row seats as we feature some of the finest and most successful personalities in network marketing. Leave nothing to chance. Join us now.
All right. Well, it is my distinct honor and pleasure to introduce not only a living legend. We've been introducing a lot of legends on this podcast, but somebody who's an icon in our industry, one of the most impactful people in the history of network marketing. I could go on and on and on, but I'd rather have you hear from him directly. But that is my good friend for 38 years and my mentor. Many of you have read my books or heard me speak. You know, I referred to Larry for 38 years. So it's my honor to introduce my good friend, living legend, icon in the industry, Mr. Larry Thompson. Welcome, Larry.
Listen, John, I love it, but I'd rather be a living legend than just a legend. At my age, now at 76, I want to be a living legend. You know?
Absolutely. Well, you certainly are. And, you know, we've known each other now. First time we met was in Hartford, Connecticut in June 1983. 1983, my God. We were young.
Up there in that old mail truck or something like it was something like that old mail truck or something. I can't remember.
Exactly. Well, we drove in a station wagon, but I was driving a mail truck.
Yeah, okay, that's what the connection.
Building my business, but we took a station wagon that had a hole in the floor. So as we're driving to Hartford, about 4 hours from New Jersey, you know, you can see the ground, and we're dropping pennies out of it, and all kinds of crazy kid stuff, you know, that I would probably still do today, by the way. Fortunately, the cars have gotten a little better through the years. But, you know, Larry, 52 years. I mean, first of all, thank you on behalf of so many distributors like myself and others that you've trained and impacted both directly and indirectly. I know you've loved what you've done, but it's also been a lot of work, a lot of building on your part, self-development on your part. So thank you for doing that.
Listen, it's an honor and a pleasure, you know, and it hasn't been a lot of work for me because I get asked all the time, when am I going to retire? And my answer is standard. From what? You know, I love what I do. I love impacting new people because I know, to me, it's like becoming a Christian. I know the impact that had when I became a believer, and I want everybody I possibly can to be able to have that experience. I know what happened to me as a long-haired hippie construction worker with no education and no self-confidence and no self-esteem. I never finished high school, and I know you know the story, but I was too shy to give that oral book report that was completed, but I couldn't walk across the stage in front of my classmates. And so the day I turned 16, I quit high school to go into work in construction because I wasn't going to graduate because I didn't do that book report. And so I went right to work with my family, my dad, my brothers, my cousins, my uncles. We all did construction work, and I loved it. And it never occurred to me to do something different at all until I came to that fateful meeting that's happened to a lot of us. And my life changed at that point because I realized, because you know Bobby DePew. I had the pleasure, and you had the honor of meeting Bobby DePew at my ranch. I believe it was at my ranch. Bobby DePew was original strategist and tactician of our space. And I joined a company called Best Line Products, my first company. The only reason I went to that meeting, not the only reason I joined, was because it was in a hotel, the Hyatt Hotel there. And I'd never been in a hotel before. And at that meeting, Bobby was given it. And I don't know, I doubt I almost can bet my life on it if someone else was conducting that meeting, especially with the nature of not network marketing back in a multi-level, but pyramiding of the environment that was involved in. I'm almost convinced I wouldn't have done it. But Bobby had that way of communicating, as I said, original strategist and tactician. And so that was a big boost for me, okay? But also a guest that night, and I know you know this, and a lot of people do, because I always am proud of telling the story. A guest at that same meeting, Jim Rohn, we both joined the same company the same night. And the very first training class I ever attended was Jim's. It wasn't Bobby's, it was Jim. And he did an organizational training for his organization. And he opened it up to everybody else. I wasn't in his lineage. And that was the first training I ever did in my life. And I got to tell you, it was life-changing. Just for things to change, you got to change. Things to get better, you got the mental projector, the 7 diseases of that, all that stuff. it just hit me. It just hit me. And I said, wow, maybe I can make some changes in my life. And I wasn't looking for any. I was happy. But I saw a bigger picture for Larry Thompson.
Wow. Wow. Amazing. And that was 1968?
1968.
68. So 50, what are we at now? 53 years ago.
Almost 3 years ago in a couple of months.
Wow. Wow. Incredible. And I see the 50 behind you in your office there. And I was there when they gave you the 50 year.
You're in my book. You were one of the contributors to the book.
The 50-year plaque. And it's funny because those words, for things to change, you have to change. For things to get better, you have to get better. That was the first thing ever impacted me about this industry that you said in Hartford. Yeah. And here we are all these years
50,
later.
Almost 50, well, not 50, 38 years later, and we're still talking the same thing. And it's this profession that we're in, business that we're in. Let me tell you, it's not that complicated. There's only half a dozen things you got to know. It's become complicated because today people are trying to teach people how to become marketers instead of network marketers. And I'm going to tell you, the long-haired hippie, you'd have lost him. You'd have lost the lady truck driver. You'd have lost Jeff or Bertie, the broke waiter. Okay, we'd have lost you. Okay, we'd have lost all the contributors in this book because we just want fun, simple, magical, and that's how this industry and profession has been built and will continue to be built.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's talk about the early years a little bit. Let's talk about Jim Rohn. I know Jim had an impact on your career, obviously, but I know he had an impact on you personally. Let's talk about Jim for a minute.
Well, Jim. I love Jim because I consider myself the long-haired hippie construction worker with no education or no self-confidence. Jim never talked at all until he said, I'm just a farm boy from Idaho. And Jim was a farm boy from Idaho. Now, that's hard for most people to comprehend because he is so eloquent and his depth of wisdom and expression is so strong. And there's no ego, there's no arrogance, there's only real legitimate passion and concern for conveying a message. But Jim, he became the vice president of training within 90 days of Best Line Products when he and I both joined the same night. I became the #1 distributor. And by the way, I didn't know it. They didn't tell you back then. I didn't know it. But Bobby and Jim put their arms around me, okay, as this long-haired hippie, because the profile of distributor back then was 40, 45 years of age, 3-piece suits, cigar smoking, whiskey drinking, white shoes, Cadillac driving. That was the profile that was there. And I was this oddity. And Bobby and Jim made sure that I stayed on the simple path. And they knew, they saw something in me. And John, I didn't know this for years. I didn't know it for years. And it took me years after that to figure out how to do it. But they saw something extra in me. I can see it in people today. I know you can too. You can see it in people, okay? Mm-hmm. That little bit of extra desire, that little bit of extra work, willingness to work, that little bit of extra being teachable, that little bit, okay? And taking self-responsibility. Today, people don't want to take self-responsibility. They want someone else to be the cause and the problem and the solution. Just send me the check. It was a different world back then. And I got to tell you something. They saw that stuff in me, and they quite frankly figured if we can get this long-haired hippie to do this, what a story to write up all these hardcore guys out here drinking whiskey and smoking cigars and living that world. And that's what took place. And it was directly because of Bobby and Jim. And I don't think anybody spent more stage time or personal time with Jim than me. And he talks about his Snake River household where he lived with his parents. I've been there, and I got to tell you, it was a treat. That place, the bathroom was the size of a big airline's bathroom on an airplane. Okay, it was so funny. His dad, basic, okay, he looked like a beanpole. He's about 6'4", 6'5", very skinny. And I never will forget. We went up there, and it was out in nowhere. Okay, the Snake River there, and we went to the general store, the four-corner deal with no stop signs, you know what I mean, out in the middle of nowhere. And Mr. Rohn was over there looking around, and we're just having a good time. Our wives were there, and we're just taking in this environment. And I remember the salesperson said, "You like that shirt?" Mr. Rohn said, "Yes, I do." He said, "Would you like to buy it?" He said, "No, I don't think so." And he said, "How come?" He said, "I already got a shirt." You got to think about that. That's how Jim Rohn was raised. That's how I was raised. You know what I mean? I got new pair of shoes and a new pair of jeans and 2 new pair of jeans and 2 shirts at the start of every school year. Monday was washed on Tuesday. Tuesday was washed on Wednesday. And I loved it. My life was great. I didn't know we were from the other side of the tracks. Okay. Didn't know until I got to junior high school. And junior high school was 8th and 9th grade, 7th and 8th, excuse me. And it was in the other side of town. I'd never been on the other side of town, okay? Because small city. And when I had to get on the bus, that was a big deal, scary for me. And then driving over there and realizing the houses and everything looked different in my neighborhood. I had no idea. And then the kids, the way they dressed and the way they talked was different than us. Most people get intimidated by that and get disturbed by that. I was excited that people had stuff like this and talked like this and acted like this. And it was my first awareness of maybe there's something better out here. I wasn't discouraged. I was happy with my life, even though we were just broke Texans that moved out in the Dust Bowl to California to get rid of all the stuff out there. Anyway, long story there, but that's kind of what happened.
Well, we talked about Jim a little bit, and of course, any one of these people we could talk about for hours, right? Because they've impacted all of us so much. And by the way, I think Jim is bigger now since he passed away than he's ever been.
Oh, there's
incredible
about it.
Incredible.
And you know what? It's something I'm very proud of because I brought Jim to Herbalife in 1985, as you well know.
Yep.
When we went through our first difficulties with Herbalife that almost took us to our knees, I needed some help. And so I went to Jim and asked him if he would come aboard with us exclusively, okay, and with network marketing. And he said yes. And then, because that was a big part of rebuilding that company, we had to get that feeling in there. And Jim and I brought him in and we did all the international stuff. And there's no doubt about it that gave him that international platform to work from. And I'm so thankful that he got it. I'm so thankful that I was in a position to help him get that, to take it to so many people around the world. And he is bigger now than he ever was. And golly, I miss him every day. I talk about him every day.
It's amazing. People out of our industry have recognized him finally. It's amazing. We all knew him, obviously, but when you got out of here, well, the real estate people knew him too. Yes. I found, but once you get into all these other industries, I mean, things, podcasts that I'm listening to about health food, for example, and they're mentioning Jim Rohn and they're quoting Jim Rohn. And I'm going, how do these guys know about him? But it's like great that they do. But you helped to make that happen. Let's go back one other step though. Bobby Depew. I remember sitting in the back of your home in was it Hidden Valley? Was that where you were?
Yeah, it was in Hidden Valley.
Hidden Valley.
They're on the deck together for a few hours.
Man, and you just left us. You just said, John, Bobby, John, you guys talk. And we sat out there and talk about Bobby for a second and the impact that he had on our industry. Because most people, unfortunately, don't know Bobby, but they should.
They don't know him unless they heard it from me. But the impact that Jim Rohn and Bobby, in this case here, Bobby, had on me is the reason that you have your impact, the reason the book was written, the reason that all the top guys here in our industry, it was because of Bobby. Bobby had that way of teaching. He used to be a school teacher. I know you know that, but very few people know he was a school teacher in a very little small town in Lindsay, California. It was right in the middle of the San Joaquin Valley. 5,000 people, just a small place. And he was a school teacher there. And he loved teaching. And he had the ability to communicate it no matter what your level was, if it was a high school student or the long-haired hippies high school dropout or the corporate executive or some kind of minister, he had the ability to communicate with you on your level. And the famous words that got me at that meeting I went to was, you got to realize how much I was out of place at this meeting. They don't have live meetings much anymore, but I want you to think about when we used to do live meetings at hotels and offices, and you have your negative brother-in-law that you finally got to come to your meeting. And not only is he your negative brother-in-law, he's an accountant and a lawyer. Okay, so you got that picture. And then to think about him sitting in there and you're nervous about it, and then some homeless guy comes in with his cart, with his tent on it, and with his broom and stuff, and sits down next to your negative brother-in-law, okay? That's what it was like for me when I'm going to these meetings, okay? The long hair, okay, and the hippie. And I learned how to scratch appropriately, caught him watching, you know what I mean? I was going to give him a good show. But so Bobby, what got me that first night, he's up there telling, and he always talked. I talked today about the 80, 15, and 5 rule. Okay, that's actually in the book 40 years ago when it was recorded. Bobby knew if you could talk to that person on that lowest rung of the ladder, that if you could get that person, then everybody else would fall into line. And I will forget that. And at that meeting, John, I felt like I was the only one in the room. There was a couple hundred people there that night, 150, 200, at least 150. And that was a big deal back then, big deal. And I felt like he was talking to me. And what got me to move forward wasn't that I believed that I could make the money that they were making. It never crossed my mind. But here's what he said, and I've used it in almost every presentation I've ever done. He says, I'd like to promise you that you can make the money that we're making. It's obvious, he said, that we're making this money. And there's sometimes you can tell it's obvious. And most of the things it's obvious that people are making money. He said, it's obvious that we're making money. And he says, I'd like to promise you that you can do what we've done. And he says, but I can't. Now, I want you to think about that in today's world. Lamborghini bikini, 10,000 a month. Look at all the gold bling, you can do it. What's wrong with you? Go big, go home. Let's rock on hot gold. Let's get your goals. Let's get your list. Okay, you know what I'm talking about. Everybody does. Okay, that distorted view of what the real prospect is all about and what they're going through. And he says, I'd like to promise you that you can make the money we're making, but I can't. He said, but I can promise you this. What if? And I've always used that phrase, and you know it all my career. What if this turns out just 10% for you, the way it's turned out for us? It could be the greatest thing ever happened to you.
Absolutely.
And what got me moving was I defaulted 90%. I gave away 90% of the success. I couldn't accept that. And it said maybe the 10. And every bit of his training was around that feeling and that communication. One of the big things that impacted you and the people in the book of how to employ yourself. Okay, Larry 1, Larry 2. I got that, John, at the Chicago Marriott Hotel, because we used to come in every month and meet there for what was called the corporate team. And I'd made corporate team by that. And I got into the coffee shop area, and it was around 2 or 3, so it wasn't busy, but there was about 7 or 8 guys gathered around Bobby and a couple other guys having a discussion. And I was still shocked. Okay. And I didn't get around the big boys, you know what I mean? I didn't realize it, but I was making more money than they were at that point and more success, but I didn't know it. And which is probably the best. And he said, he was talking about how to be in business for yourself. And he said, it's kind of like you got to learn how to be the boss and the bossy. That is all he said. But because I was so attuned to him, that's where how to employ yourself, Larry 1 and Larry 2 came from. And I built it into a complete story there, because most entrepreneurs were good or great employees before they became an entrepreneur. Okay. And then they become an entrepreneur and they don't succeed the way they did as being the number 1 employee, because they don't know how to employ themselves. And it's the simplest process is all. Bobby taught me simplicity, 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 and everything I do, and since then has been on making it simple, simple, simple. And Bobby, he was just an amazing teacher, and he had the way to communicate. And it's part of me. Jim and Bobby's a part of me. Jim, the philosophical side. Bobby, the strategical, tactical side. And thank goodness for Herbalife, because Mark Hughes gave me the license to do. He said, the license to the kingdom. Here, do what is necessary right now to make this business work. And John, most people don't realize that the similarities between 1980 and 2020. They don't recognize the similarities, but they were significant. 2 very important things that happened in 1980, between 1979 and 1980. I'm gonna just make it 1980. That changed everything, the landscape at that point. Number 1 was when Amway had been fighting for years. The government was constantly coming after, I won't call them network marketers or multi-level, after the so-called pyramiders. They were constantly, don't you get up to 4 or 5 million a month? Boom, then here they would come. it was legitimate that they came because of the programs that people were working and doing back then. But Amway said, we're different and we're going to fight. All those companies went out of business as soon as the government tapped them on the shoulders because they couldn't fight because they were guilty. You know, guilty is the wrong word. They were vulnerable. That's a better word. And Amway fought. And in 1979, they won and got a consent decree from the Attorney General of Michigan that said and recognized that multi-level, and that was the first time to my knowledge MLM, multi-level marketing, was ever used, was in that agreement. And it says if you operate like this, then you're going to be okay and we'll consider you legal. I mean, that's my terminology, but that's exactly what it did. And so what happened then? When that happened, it changed the landscape because now if this is a legal entity, if you operate like this, there's a completely different audience that's available to you than the white shoes, whiskey drinking, cigar smoking, Cadillac driving. It's a bigger audience, okay? And that audience speaks a different language than this audience does, and they have to have a different behavior created in their environment for them to be able to grow with. It's audience, language, and behavior. Okay? So let's draw some comparisons here. Okay? First of all, let me go to the second point that happened. We were coming out of a pandemic type of environment. Everybody, what are you talking about? We never had a pandemic environment. We had a pandemic type of environment. America was shut down because of the Iran-Contra situation taking over our embassies, embargoing all the oil. We had no oil in America. We could only buy gas for your cars on the last digit of your license plate. It was even or odd on even or odd days. 25% unemployment, 25% interest rates. So all of that changed. You got to understand the pandemic type environment now had people that would never listen to the so-called pyramiding conversation, wanted a conversation that they could identify with to get themselves out of this economic crisis that they were in, and they were now listening to where they wouldn't even listen before. So Mark gave me the license, the creative license. Let's put something together. So we created that program, which I got everybody. It's almost the #1 brand right now. We had a different audience if we would market to it, a different language that they spoke. The long-haired hippie, the lady truck driver, the broke waiter, the school teacher, the surfer. It gave us a bigger audience to talk to. We had to speak their language, and then we created an environment that wasn't a sales environment. It was that environment of fun, simple, magical, built around use, where talk, and I don't know about that, so everybody could do it. And that's how you got your start. That's how everybody in that book got that start, and that's how they built the industry. So those two things are happening right now. Right now, because of the pandemic, there's millions and millions of displaced people who would not listen to you in 19, okay? Wouldn't have listened to you in the beginning of 20, but today they're looking, and they're not looking for Lamborghini bikini. 10,000 a month right now, all the bling. What they're looking for is an extra $500 to $1,500 a month without disturbing their lifestyle. And they want to have the possibility, perhaps, if they build a little team, to make $500, $1,500 a week or a month. And if you will go out there and have your talk with the $500 to $1,500 a month, that's what we learned in Herbalife 40 years ago. Talk to those people, because if they become successful, then there's plenty of people around them that said, if he can do it or she can do it, I can do it. And then Uncle Harry, who's a successful accountant, says, wait a minute, if he's or she's doing that, maybe I can do that. And a different audience, language, and behavior. And that's what we're doing today, is identifying that through our academy to teach everybody, wait a minute, there's our business is going to be bigger than ever before, but it's got to change. It's got to change. It's got to adapt. Every business that we do business with, if it be a restaurant, if it be a salon, if it be a grocery store, an automobile, no matter what it is, every business out there today is doing business different right now than they did 6 months ago, definitely different than a year ago. Here we come around in network marketing, and we think we're immune to that. We don't think we have to adapt. We don't have to do that. That's what happened in 1980. They didn't think they had to adapt. We adapted audience, language, and behavior and became #1 in 4 years with that. From 1981, when this was recorded, in 4 years, we were #1 with everyday people like you, like me. That same thing exists today, but we're stuck in the social media world. And here's the thing about social media. I love social media. However, it becomes the goddess. And people think because they send a post out that they're doing their job description today. And if they do a video, they're doing this. And if they get 10 likes today, ridiculous. Ridiculous. That's not how you build a business. And if you do, the people that do it like that, John, they're making more money today than they've ever made in our space. We all know that. But it's fewer people and there's zero. We talk about duplication. There's no duplication going on in our space since 2015. That's why the numbers have come down. We're in this positive environment of being in our sales profession that we're in. We're positive. We look at everything positive. But since 2015 to now, the sales in the direct sales space has declined. It's gone down. Why the gig world has gone up? Because they're attracting different people with a different audience, language, and behavior. And so I don't know what got us on this, but anyway.
It's great. So let's, before we get to Mark, we'll come back to Mark in a minute. Larry Thompson, young guy. I think you were married. I think maybe you had Leah at the time.
I had two children, two daughters, Larry and Leah, when I got started.
Larry and Leah. So Bobby basically says, Larry, go to El Paso, Texas. You've never been there before.
Yeah.
Right. Tell that story, how you almost, and I know the story, of course, but tell that story, because I think it's really important our listeners understand. We've all had that moment where nobody's showing up, or they're showing up and they're not joining, or they're showing up and they're saying you're crazy. Larry Thompson, that position, young guy, sitting in El Paso, Texas, doesn't know a soul. How many people did you go through? Share that story.
Well, the story's got to go back a little ways for that story to make any sense. I did real good the first 90 days off of my center of influence, you know what I mean? And things took off really well. And I went full time right away. Mistake. I was way ahead of the curve and I shouldn't have done that. Young, arrogant, you know, sassy, you know, the deal, how it goes. And you think this money's always going to come in. So my first 90 days, I did very well. I was doing my job description. My job description was simple: onboard members, onboard customers. It wasn't training. It wasn't mentoring. It wasn't being a coach. It wasn't showing them how great I was at recruiting and here's your script. Okay. It was just belly to belly stuff. And people said, if he can do it, maybe I can do it. So the first 90 days, I did my job description and did really well. And you know what happened, just like happens to almost everybody. The next 90 days, I'm out of my center of influence. Okay. And I don't know how to talk. What do I do now? And so what do? I go help my team. Okay. And go in management mode, helping my team, telling them what they should do that I myself am not doing anymore. Okay. And the second 90 days was real scary for me. Bobby, being the experienced tactician, knew that he had to do something with me. He was going to lose me. And so he called me into his office one day and talked about how they were going to do the national expansion program. And I used that phrase for 50 plus years, national expansion. He could have made it up on the spot. I got no idea. Okay. But he said how we're going to take a group of guys and we're going to go across the country and do this national expansion program. And he had different pins on the map. Okay. And he said, we're going to go to Chicago. We're going to get someone in Atlanta. We're going to get someone in San Francisco, all that kind of stuff. And he had a little pin up there on El Paso, Texas, and Dallas, Texas, and Houston. And he says, we're going to go out here and expand this, and we're going to develop this corporate team where every guys that help us do this nationally going to be tied in above and beyond the organization. And he said, I think this is perfect for you. And I would love to see you go out and try this. Just choose your spot. Dallas was scary. Houston was scary. Chicago, no way, man. I'd never been more than a couple hundred miles from my home in my life, okay, and come from a very small city. And so El Paso, Texas seemed safe to me for some reason. Safe. And I chose El Paso. Almost everybody, it's like Mexico. Everybody speaks Spanish, okay? It's majority Spanish because it's right, you know. Okay, you go across the street at the stoplight and you're in Mexico. Okay?
Exactly.
and I got there and I was told that, you know, you got to have your meetings on the Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and you got to go get a hotel or someplace like that. It never occurred to me that I was the only person in the state of Texas. There was nobody else there. 6 months earlier, I'm on my hands and knees finishing cement. Okay. And now I'm in El Paso, Texas, never been away from my home. And I have to have this hotel meeting. And to do all the meetings that we were trained to do, the Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday meetings, it was going to cost like $500 or $600, as I recall, to get this hotel to me. It wasn't more than I made in a month as a cement finisher. Okay. So I did that. And here's what got me to really make the decision. Just before I left, I was at a training and I overheard these two guys. They were kind of like higher end salespeople, professional type of people, and they were talking about running ads. And I was listening in. And then afterwards, at the next break, I got one of them that I kind of had a rapport with. I said, tell me about this ad thing. He said, oh, yeah. And he said, you run these ads, and here's the script, and here's the do. I said, that's it. I'm going to El Paso. I'll never be out of people. And I went to El Paso. I ran my ad. John, I had no clue how to handle it. None. The phone rang. I was so excited. And back then, the phones were hardwired to the wall. Okay. And they started asking me questions. And the first guy that asked me questions, and I couldn't get off the phone fast enough. I said, boy, I'm glad he didn't join. You know what I mean? And then the next 4 or 5 was the same way. I was hyperventilating talking to these guys. And the phone just kept ringing. I couldn't unplug it. Okay. And there's no way to turn it off back then. So I just kept piling pillows on top of the phone so I wouldn't have to deal with it. And for 5 days it rang. And now I'm stuck. What do I do to go out here and get this center of influence or get something going? I did know this. I had to do my job description. I did know this, that every Monday, every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Saturday morning meeting, I had to have 2 or 3 guests. That was what I was taught. Okay. How do I do it? So I locked in on Bobby's Sinaloa concept, which is in the book, okay, of the 10 pennies in one pocket, move them to the other. Don't want to get into the details of that. Boy, that was hard. That was hard. But I finally started getting a few people to show up. Back then, it took about 3 to 4 people to really put on a meeting because you have to have a hostess or host. You had to have someone to do the front half. You had to have someone to take care of the display. You had to have someone to do the back half. It was just me. And if there was no guest there, it was me. And there's many times that I wish there was no guest there, okay, because I still had to do the meeting, okay, with 2 or 3 people who are sitting there with their eyes crossed and giving me darts coming out. Long story short, I was told 2 out of 10. If I got 10 people to come to the meeting, I'd get 2 to sign up. And if I got 10 to sign up, I'd get 2 to get moving. And if I got 10 to get moving, I'd have 2 to be lifers. So, okay, so I got to get my people to the meeting. And it's tough, but now I got about 7 or 8 people in a row to this meeting. And I'm the only one in the state. Nobody's joined. I can't wait to get to number 10 so I can get someone to sign up so I can get some help. Didn't happen. 12 didn't happen. 15, 17 still hasn't happened. And I'm having a hard time controlling my thinking. I'm having a hard time to keep up. I can't, there's no one to talk to. The only person I can talk to is call my wife back in California. Long distance was, you couldn't talk long distance back then. It was too expensive. And I couldn't get encouragement from her because she wanted money to pay for the house payment. And I didn't have the money to help pay for the house payment. I had to stay up. So I'm all there by myself. And 27, nobody joined. 36, nobody's joined. Long story short, I'm getting at the end of my 90 days away from it. And I'm at 47. 48, and I'm almost given up. I can't wait to get to 50. So I have a legitimate reason to say I did everything I could and it didn't work. Okay. And I'm coming back to California, and I'd already made a couple of calls to my family, said, hey, if I come back, is there a spot for me? Can I go to work right away in construction? And the answer was, of course. Long story short, 52 in a row, nobody joined. I mean, I'm talking at the meeting. I'm not talking about talking. I'm not talking about posting. I'm not talking about, answering an ad. I'm talking, they actually showed up. And let me tell you, number 53. 53 showed up that I was Mark and Charlotte Parkhurst. And they were just regular, everyday people. Mark worked in the oil fields, and Charlotte was like they didn't do homeschooling back then, but that would be my best description of her. They joined. And I had someone to believe in me. And the other thing that happened to me, John, was they gave me a spare room in their house, and Charlotte cooked for us, did all the laundry and all that stuff. And I played with the kids. And I got to tell you, the next 90 days, I earned $10,000 back then. Okay. Wow. And when I tell this story, sometimes people say, boy, Mark and Charlotte must have really been good distributors. They were great distributors, but they weren't hitters. They were B- C players, but they believed in me and they supported me. And I knew that what Bobby had taught me about Sinaloa, safety and number, law of average, shake every grain of sand from your shoes, all of that stuff that you know and by heart, okay, I knew that if I did that, it would always work for me. And it has always worked for me for 52 years, no matter what. It's a recession, no matter who's president, no matter what the politics, and no matter what Katrina storm is coming, no matter about Iran, Contra, no matter if there's wars and no wars, no matter if there's pandemic, it's always worked and it always will work. You just got to be able to tie it into current circumstances and it will always work for you. So it was 52 people in a row that I got there that said no. 53 joined. And what it did do for me, it told me that no matter what, I can make this work.
Cool. And that's such an amazing story because we've all been there.
Yes,
and sometimes because this has become a career for so many of us, you start a new company or a new organization. You're like, man, are they going to show up? And they do show up and they still don't join. And I don't care today if it's over Zoom and all these other things. At the end of the day, if they're not joining, you start thinking it's you after a while. Well, it's not the product. It's not the company. It's me. So it's amazing that you went through that and that you persevered and stayed through that. And if you hadn't, you wouldn't have met a young guy named Mark Hughes a few years later and created history as one of the, in my opinion anyway, the 4 iconic companies in the industry that we talk about, Amway, Shackley, Herbalife, Mary Kay, as the 4 companies that without, I don't think we have a business today. We probably wouldn't be sitting having this conversation. So let's talk about Mark Hughes. How'd you guys meet?
Another fascinating story. In 1978, I was doing nothing in at that point in network marketing, and I got off a plane in San Diego, California, and I was standing out by the curb waiting. I had a new girlfriend that I just met, and we were getting close to each other, and I was going to come out and visit her for a week or so. And I'm waiting on the curb, and I feel this tap on my shoulder. And it was Larry Huff, which Larry Huff.
Mm-hmm, sure.
And Larry Huff had just started a company called Slim Jim, which actually is Golden Youth Marketing. But Slim Jim was the product that exercised Jane White, I think was her name, was on TV. And anyway, they took it multi-level. And he said, come on down to the meeting. And I said, well, I'm not going to do anything in network marketing right now. And he said, well, come on down, say hello to me, and we'll go out to dinner, all that stuff. And he was a very likable, fun guy, as you know, and he was very enjoyable. And I came to the meeting that night just to come. And at that meeting, remember Jim Rohn and I joined the same meeting the same night?
Mm-hmm.
I joined the business that night. But there was another guest there that night, Mark Hughes. He was a young kid, okay? And he joined Slim Jim, Golden Youth Marketing. Slim Jim was the product, the same night that I did. I became vice president within 90 days. He became the #1 distributor. And we worked very, very closely together with Golden Youth Marketing. And about a year and a half later, they went out of business. We never did figure out why, but they did. And Mark he said, I want to start my own company. And I thought it was ridiculous because looks like no matter how old he is, he always looks like a young kid. Okay, he always did. But he was a smart young kid and a very, very hard worker. And I never believed that he would put this together. He said, well, if I didn't want to tell him that. He said, well, what would be my first 4 or 5 steps? So I laid it out for him. Okay. And laid it out. You need a manufacturer. You need a product. You need a product with a hook to it. You need this and you need that. Okay. Then you got to set up this and you got to do that. And I said, the first thing you got to do is get backing. And within 3 weeks, he had backing. Total of $25,000. Okay. $25,000 is what started Herbalife. He had an extra $5,000 from Catherine Whiting's dad, who was his girlfriend at that time, which became his first wife. And so I said, okay, you got the money. That's amazing. I didn't think he was going to do it. And now at this time, I've already moved back to Texas. Okay. And he's in California. And he says, show me how to put the compensation plan together. I knew he had to have a compensation plan that would bring him in money. He needed cash flow. Right. So I said, this is what I would do now under these conditions. And it, quite frankly, had a $1,500 package to it, which was a big deal back then. Today, it wouldn't work at all, but it did back then because he needed cash flow. I said, but you can't stay with this. If you're gonna go, it's gonna have to be different, but you need this to start with. So got him started with that. And then it was almost like he kicked off in February of 80. It was like February, he put me on a plane to come out and talk to him. Okay. And he had apartment up there in Wilshire Boulevard. We were both single guys, not Starsky and Hutch, but that Miami Vice. Remember that one?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's the kind of people we were. Okay, living up there in the Wilshire high rise and going around there, smart, rich, and pretty. That kind of deal. And we enjoyed being with each other. And finally, after getting out there almost every other month, in May of 1980, we shook hands that I was going to come aboard with him full time. And exclusive with him and guide him and direct us would be like partners, and it was going to be a 5/8, 3/8 partnership. And we shook hands, and that's what it was. We didn't have any paperwork. We shook hands, and that was enough for us. Okay, and it worked out to be enough for us. And then I told him in May that I was going to come right away, but I didn't get here until October. And the reason was I just got involved in a church, John, out here in Dallas. And my spiritual life started coming together, and I was so excited about it. And I didn't want to leave it. I just wanted to stay there. And long story short, I got there on October 4th, I think it was 1980. And he wanted to announce me as the vice president right away. And I said, no. I had to take a page out of Jim Rohn's book. Jim Rohn, Bobby wanted him to become vice president of training. Jim said, no, I got to build an organization for 60 or 90 days, so I'll be accepted. Mm-hmm. So I told Mark, I said, no. I understand it's a 5/8, 3/8 split, but you're not making me vice president right now. I'm a distributor, and the people got to see me as a distributor, and so I can work with them as a distributor, and that's what I did all through the end of 1980. And we put the real structure of Herbalife as we know it today, and it's got a different shirt and tie on it today, but we put that structure together, and we kicked it off on January 2nd of 1981. February 21st of 1981 is when the Millionaire training was recorded. But Jim, Mark gave me the keys to the castle to do whatever was necessary. I can identify it as audience, language, and behavior. I can fund simple, magical. I can identify that. I knew how to do that, but I didn't know those parts of it. And Mark was just unbelievable. Okay, as far as his getting people to believe in him and his cause and what he was doing. And Mark took it to heart. I said, listen, if you're going to do this, the mission is far more important than the commission. In today's world, the commission comes first. Oh, well, what's the mission? What's the product? And you cock something up. And I tell you right now, in today's world, you could have 5 different companies, top 250 and above $1 million a year companies. And you can put a blindfold on and not say the name of the product or the company and say, tell me your story. It's identical. Mm-hmm. Okay, Mr. CEO or Mrs. CEO, Pulitzer Prize winner formulator, master distributor this, we got this cause, we got that, we got these leaders. They're all identical. They're identical. And so we had to build a story with his mission, a true story about what this company was all about and what it stood on. And we did that. And he gave me the keys to go out there and create what I'm now calling audience, language, and behavior, the 6 pillars that we teach in the academy. And that was the only time in my career at that point, okay, that I had freedom to do everything that I thought was going to be necessary. There was no pushback. Mark and I worked as distributors. There was no company and then the distributors. There was no distributors in company like today. We were the uplines. We were the uplines, and there was no company to interfere with us. We didn't have to ask any decisions. We made the decisions that were right for our downline and build our business. We didn't have to worry about stockholders. We didn't have to worry about executives. We didn't have to worry about all that. We built our organization, and we were the uplines. And you know well from 1983 how we did that. It was very brilliant what we did, and that's, I'm not bragging, but it was brilliant. And I'd like to tell you that it was, I knew it was right, but I didn't know how brilliant it was going to be. But in the distributor kit that got you started, it was $29.95. Mm-hmm. And it had the full slim and trim in it, those 4 products, plus energy tablets, plus Millionaire training capes. Mm-hmm. Okay. So that a person could get started out there where you were in New Jersey or in Podunk, Michigan, or somewhere in West Texas. They were equipped with the product that they needed at the price point that worked, and they had the Millionaire training to show them how to go about building their business, okay? That was a huge, huge deal for people to be equipped day one into believing, if they can do it, maybe I can do it. Is this all I got to do? And then, as you well know, we had the Millionaire training tapes that went into kits, but they needed to be reinforced. So we used to go around the country, 20, 22 cities a month. Mm-hmm. And what we do, we'd do the equivalent of what I'm doing now in our academy, the 6 pillars, teaching those things because they had to be reinforced. How do you do these simple things? And what that did was create leadership. I'm not talking about walking on hot coals. I'm not talking about mentoring and coaching and master distributorship and doing all this stuff. I'm talking about leadership, how the truck driver could have them. They already had the leadership in them, but how to bring it out of them, how the school teacher. And that's what built it. And Mark gave me that license to do that. And I got to tell you, we were a magical team, as you well know. We were a magical team.
Oh, unbelievable.
And reminds me a lot of today of Taylor, my wife, and I working together with that magical team. We never worked from notes. You never saw a PowerPoint, didn't have PowerPoints, but we never worked from notes. We sat down, as you well know, in front of the room with a bottle of herbal aloe, got sitting back there with our legs crossed and said, let's talk. Okay. And we'd do it for 8 hours for 20, 22 cities a month. And go back and say, all you got to do is use where talk. All you got to do is this. All you got to do is that. There's a half a dozen things that you ever need to learn about to be a successful distributor in our space. A half a dozen things. You learn those half a dozen things. You implement those half a dozen things. It's impossible not to succeed. It's impossible.
So let's jump forward a little tiny bit to Millionaire Training, February 1981. And I'll tell you, when I got in, which was April 18th, 1983, I wore those tapes out. I went through 6, my first year at Herbalife, okay? And we normally, by the way, on the podcast, folks, we normally don't talk companies, but because of Larry's history, we got to talk companies a little bit. I wore them things out. They kept breaking. So finally I got smart. I started buying like 2 sets and 3 sets because I figured I'm just going to keep listening to them until I get it. And it was a brilliance, but there was a simplicity.
Yes.
And it was, and at the time I'm, 20, whatever I am, 21, 22 years old, know nothing about nothing. But it was like, okay, I get the message. And of course I related to you so well because, my family was construction, your family was construction. We knew what a real day's work was, Like we didn't have soft hands when you shook hands. We actually had some calluses from some real work, right? And you know what I'm referring to. But that resonated with me, but I know it resonated with a lot of other people. So let's talk about Millionaire Training. How did it happen? Was it something you sat down and you planned, or you just pitched? I mean, tell the story.
A few things, John, that it's the only thing I've ever done with that much thoroughness of thought going into it, because I'm a pulse beat guy, okay? And I knew that we had to put this in the distributor kits, and I knew it had to be able to get people, find them where they were, no matter what city or state they were, whatever position of confidence or lack of confidence, finances, circumstances, it had to equip them. So I sat down on a Thursday, okay, and this was going to be done on a Saturday, and I laid out, basically there's 10 chapters in this book, okay, and I laid it out. What was the real thing, and that's what I did that day. And here's the real key to this, and you know this, but at the last minute we were discussing if we should tape it or not. And it was Mark said, we need to tape this. And we had to figure out 1981, how do you tape something? Now I know that sounds ridiculous. That was 40 years. How do you tape something? You can't Google it. Okay. Who do you call? So finally we found the guy that said he would record it for $150. It took another 3 hours of discussion before we would commit to the $150. Okay. The guy gets to the hotel and he brings his big cart in, man, this big equipment. He says, okay, I'm all set up here. I said, but get a hold, we need to have a plug-in that ties into the house system. And I said, what's that? And he explained it to us. I didn't know. Nobody knew. The house didn't know how to do it. It was at the Bonaventure Hotel, big hotel there. They didn't know how to do it. He duct taped a microphone to the center chair in the front row. There's not one edit in that Millionaire Training. There's no edits. Now we've digitally enhanced it with uhs and ahs, but there's not one edit. It went from one to the next, to the next, to the next, that gave you all those things that you're talking about, how you wore them out. Every story in this book There's about 12, 15 stories. Let's just call it 12. And you know this as well as I do. Everybody in that book that contributed, and by the way, I didn't pay you guys to be in that book, and you didn't pay me to be in that book, which is kind of a standard deal today, and I don't have any problems with that. Everyone did this free gratis because of how it impacted their lives. Mm-hmm. And we could take all of you guys, just say there's 12 of you, like a clock and a round table. You could start over here with some page 78, whatever 78 is, and start a story with 78 and quit talking about it in about 3 minutes. And you're at 1 o'clock on the table, and whoever's at 2 o'clock will pick up word for word where you left off. And then the next guy, after a couple, 3 things in there, will pick it up and word for word. Everybody in that book can do this. And not only that, thousands of people can do that same thing. They know it word for word because it was part of us. This is our profession. This is the mindset. This is what has built this. And if there was anything more needed than that, I would have it in there. But what I did find out is that we had to go around and say, okay, you guys got that. But now, audience, language, and behavior, we had to reinforce that because they'll always get it complicated if not. But that's kind of how that tape came about, and it's stood up to the test of time. It's more relevant today than it was even then. It's because it's timeless. And no matter what your methodology is, even if you're a hardcore marketer, go with what's in here. Go with what's in the 6 pillars. Adapt to those things. Don't make the rest of the world adapt to your technique of social media marketing. Adapt this to that, okay? Mm-hmm. Or adapt that to this is a better way to say it. But I don't know I don't know if I answered your question or not.
Well, you did, and so let's go further though. The impact of that. There's been, without getting into specifics, there's been companies created as a result of that philosophy, one of which I was kind of a part of here in Dallas way back. That did pretty well for a while. There's been obviously a lot of distributorships, including my own and others that have carried on, the messaging of that. And I think it's so important that people understand what the impact of Millionaire training is. Because I hear people, I listened to a guy a couple of weeks ago. It was funny. He was speaking at a company's convention. And all I heard was Larry Thompson, Mark Hughes, Jim Rohn. And the guy was making it his own, which was fine because the audience didn't know any better. Yeah. But so much of what we did with our own twists that we've learned, and applied different things from other people, other sources, and our own experiences. But the people in that book, I know we're all like extended family. We've all got to know each other through the years. Some are good friends of mine. Some are good friends. They're all good friends of yours, but some have become my good friends. But talk about the impact. Larry Thompson from Best Lines, with your other experience, you meet Mark, Herbalife. I know you've helped one company in Europe that's become the largest company in Europe, for example. I know the success of that company. But talk, if you will, just what's been created as a result of the Millionaire training mindset and philosophy and training. Okay. What's happened as a result with some of these people?
Well, the impact of the Millionaire training by itself, okay, just with the tapes and now with the book and everything else, you can't count the book into what I'm about to say, but with the Millionaire training. And by the way, I never trained it once. You never saw me train Millionaire training.
No,
never. The tape. I didn't need to train it. It was there. You go self-teach your stuff. It's not my responsibility to come around and teach you stuff that's in a tape that you're supposed to be listening to. It's like me going to the gym and saying, okay, let's build your muscles, John. I'm going to lift the weights for you. Okay. I'm going to lift the weights. Okay. You can watch all of Arnold's, read all of his books and watch all of his videos. And I'm going to tell you right now, he Mr. Olympian for 6 years in a row, whatever it was. You're not going to build one muscle. One thing I knew is everybody had to lift their own weight. So what happened as a result of the Millionaire training, it has built the profession. It has stabilized the profession. And I understand what you're saying about people going and doing trainings and they say, wait a minute, this guy's up there, so now it's women, okay, up there quoting all this stuff and everybody ooh and on. And it is Jim Rohn. It is Mark Hughes. It is Larry Thompson. Now, if they don't want to give us credit, that's fine. But let me tell you something. It's one thing to copy it. It's another thing to live it, okay? Mm-hmm. Live it. You have lived it. Everyone in this book has lived these concepts and principles, lived it and live it today, because it's not just about network marketing. It's about life, problem solving, okay? Problem solving, okay? The days that turn your life around, okay? All of that stuff that's there that you got to do if you're a truck driver joining our profession, or if you're a truck driver and want to stay a truck driver to raise your family and grandkids, it's all there. And that's, I got to tell you, it's me that put it into that story form. But that information is it's Jim Rohn and Bobby. It's Larry Thompson put it into my story form. How about procrastination? You know exactly procrastination, the fried bologna sandwich, okay? It was all done in a story form. Every chapter was a story, the gold mine attitude, 2 for 1, okay? All of that was concepts and principles I learned from Bobby and Jim, and put it together in my own way, and then brought it to Herbalife, and then the rest of it we have, and now we're out there doing even greater, bigger things, in my opinion, than ever before.
So I'll give people listening to this an idea, because you're absolutely right, Larry. The impact of that surpasses our business. I always say to people, multi-level, our distributorships, our companies, for the company owners that we work with, is a microcosm of everything else, right? I mean, you might be a great distributor, but you're still a dad, you're still a granddad or grandma or uncle or aunt, and you're all these other things that we could describe. When my oldest daughter had an issue, as you know, you and Taylor were there as friends of ours supporting our family, which I appreciate, a couple of years ago. And the second she got out of the situation she was in, through the professional help that the good Lord she got, and she's doing great, by the way. What did she say to me? She said, I know exactly what you're going to say, Dad. Day at a time, brick at a time, process by process. Where did that come from? Millionaire training, 1983, right? Like stuff I learned when I was younger than she was when she had her issue. But that's a pillar that whether you're building a distributorship, a church, a little league field, or God forbid, dealing with a sick family member, those are the philosophies that the people in that book have adopted in their lives. And every one of them have had great lives, and we've all had issues with different things. Life happens. But every one of us went back to that self-development. And that's something that is beyond the money that people have made. That's the impact. That's the impact.
There's a thing today in network marketing that talks about personal growth. Quite frankly, it's almost personal growth is a result, not the cause. You got to do a half an hour a day of Jim Rohn. Great. God bless America. Everybody needs Jim Rohn no matter what.
Absolutely.
Okay? But I am going to tell you, I never had a half an hour a day of Jim Rohn unless he and I were on stage together. Okay. I got Jim Rohn. Okay. You guys got Millionaire training. Okay. Yes, you listened to it over and over again because you were at a different stage, but your personal growth did not come from that. Your personal growth came from the activity. It's no different than Arnold with books and videos and things. You got to lift your own weights, okay? And so that is absolutely essential in today's world. In the direct sales magazine here that just came out, they did the legends, as they called it, and I was included in 5 of those legends, which was said over 50 years continuous, not support, but activity within the direct sales space. And Jerry Brassfield was one of those guys. Okay? Jerry Brass, 4 of those 6 people came out of one company, Best Line Products. Okay, wow. Best Line Products, and that did not include Jim Rohn. He did not include Bobby DePue. It did not include Les Brown. Okay, all of that, but those legends that are on the cover of this direct sales magazine. As 4 of the 5 came out of Best Line. Jerry Brassfield was the vice president of Best Line, very soft-spoken guy, but his words were magical. And he said something in his segment in this direct sales magazine of these legends that's out there. I suggest everyone gets it because I'm in there, but these guys are all special. And Jerry Brassfield said in that very soft-mannered voice that he always talked in, he said, I don't believe in these leadership programs. He said, I don't think it's possible for you to go out here and buy a 21-step program or 7-step program or 5-step program to go develop your leadership. He said, to me, it's like you watching someone swim in your pool while you're sitting on the side and saying, okay, I can learn how to do that. He said, the way you develop leadership is how quickly and how many life-changing circumstances you get in and come out the other side stronger and better and more effective. That's how leadership is developed, in action, not in observation, not from the stage. And that's the way I've always been, is, as you well know, you guys were called to order, okay? And it was called do your job description. And you said, well, what about this and what about that? How many people did you talk to yesterday? Okay. What happened? Where's the Sinaloa? Okay. Where is the safety and number and law of average? That's the accountability. And today you can't hold people accountable because they'll get their feelings will be hurt. Okay. And you can't talk to, you got to be a little bit more sensitive. No, look at the weakness we have in our country. Look at what's going on around the world. Don't tell me that that's right. Don't you dare tell me that what's going on that built America. Yes, America, the great America, the greatest country ever in the history of the world. Okay. Yes, what built it was what the principles are here in the stuff that we're talking about. It isn't being politically correct. Okay. It is about being correct and doing and taking on the responsibility that you need to have as a self-responsible person. And I believe that leadership, everybody has leadership. It's self-leadership. To me, it's self-responsibility, self-determination, self-motivation, okay? Self-functioning. Everybody has that in one or more areas of their life right now. If you're a single mom, you have that in that area you have to be. If you've got, no matter who you are, if you're a mom of 10, okay, you got to have self-responsibility, self-determination, self-motivation, self-function in one or more areas of your life. Well, if you have it in one area, all you got to do is give yourself the authority to do it in another area, okay? If it be network marketing, or no matter what it may be. But self-leadership is existent in every person. It was existed in you, me, every member of this book. It was existed in Jim Rohn before he became Jim Rohn. It was existed in Mark Hughes before he became Mark Hughes. Certainly it was in Larry Thompson before he became Larry Thompson.
One of the things that yourself and Mark did in those early days, and we were all so young. I mean, some of the guys in the book, we kind of grew up together. We were all kids together. And it's along that philosophy: tell, show, try, do. Not tell, show, watch another guy do it. Tell, to your point about Arnold. Go do it now. Like, okay, I'll show you how to do it, but now you got to do it, and we'll critique it and we'll work on it and we'll tweak it and we'll do what we got to do to advance it. Talk about that a little bit, because that concept has trained millions and millions and millions of distributors around the world. It started with you guys, or at least in my experience. Maybe it started with Bobby and Jim prior.
Well, that one started with me. And I'll tell you how it happened. My youngest daughter at that time, Leo, she was 16, and she came out to visit me in California with one of her girlfriends, Shelly, and they were going to drive up the coast of California. I can't even imagine letting two 16-year-old girls do that today, but that was years ago. And they were going to take my Cadillac Seville, and it had on some custom wheels to it that was prone to flat tires. Okay, it wasn't the quality, it's just different back then. So I had to make sure they knew how to change a tire. Okay. And so I wouldn't let them go until they knew how to change the tire. So I told them, I said, here's how you do it. Here's the step. Boom, boom, boom. Get a block for the back tire. Do this, do that. And that's when you could change a tire. Today, you can't change tires on cars anymore. There's no bumpers. I can't change a tire on a car today. I got to get the tow truck. Okay. Then I said, show them. Then we got it. And I said, try it. And guess what? They did about 10% of it. Okay. I want them to do it. After 3-4 times of doing that and staying with it, I told them, I showed them, they tried it until they could do it. And I said, what a great training class. That's where that came from. And so tell, show, try, do was to say, this is all I know. This is all I do. I don't know if it's going to turn out for you the way it's turned out for me. I got no idea, but it's worth trying. Today, tell, show, try, do is you going to the gym and lifting their weights. It's you going to the gym and Arnold lifting your weights, taking the responsibility for them. That's what tell, show, try, do's turned in today. And tell them, encourage them, keep them encouraged. Give me a break. Okay. Grow up in the world that I grow in. You encourage yourself. Okay. You did it yourself, leadership. Okay. Instead of the stuff that's going on today. And I got this problem at my work, and I got this problem with my coworker. Get off of your knees. Get off of your knees. Raise your family. Do your job. Okay. That's how America was built. That's how Herbalife was built. That's how all the people and the five guys who are recognized in the direct sale news as the 50-year legends here. That's how we did it. That's how you did it. That's how the contributors in the book. But tell, show, try, do didn't mean that you did it. Listen, here's what I do. Here's how I did it. Okay. Okay. You need to try it. If you got it down, fine. If not, get back in touch with me and we'll go through it again. Okay. It may take 4, 5, or 6 times. But if you're doing your job description, talking and onboarding members and customers, it's not that difficult. You got to move your lips, okay? And the question is, I asked a guy from United Kingdom a couple of days ago. He's in our mastermind group, and he was telling me what was going on. I said, let's go backwards. I said, last Wednesday, and I just chose Wednesday. How many people did you talk to? I said, I'm not talking about how many people you sent out a post to. I'm not talking about how many likes and hearts you get on your Facebook. How many people did you say, hey, if I could show you a way, would you possibly be interested? Boom, boom, boom. And he said 7. And I said, okay, you got 7. How about Thursday? He said 3. How about Friday? He said 2. I said, you want to build your business? Do your job description. You decide. Mine was 10 a day. New blood to talk to. I got to talk to. And guess what? You know this one. We always taught you guys sponsor 10 a month. You tell someone to sponsor 10 a month today, they'll hyperventilate, pass out, and you call 911. Okay, we need unbelievable leadership from the company down, leadership from these mentors and coaches, afraid to tell someone they got to go to the gym and lift their own weights. If they want a growth into greatness, they got to grow, they got to do, and that now, and what everyone to do, teach. We want to teach, we want to help. And so I said, listen, the first thing you want to do is go back to the book and read it, get into the academy, and go out there and figure out what you got to do to employ yourself and get the job done. So tell, show, try, do. It's just a simple thing. It's saying that this is all I do. This is all I know. We didn't know much. Okay. We didn't know. We knew these things. Okay. And we did these things, and it always works. It will always work no matter what the circumstances. So again, I don't know if I answered your question or not.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's kind of, as we start to wrap up here, let's go through a couple of things. So tell our listeners about where they can get the book.
Amazon. Okay. Go to the best place to do it is go to millionairetraining.com, themillionairetraining.com. Okay. And you guys can maybe put that in your broadcast too, but themillionairetraining.com. And what we got there, John, this is fact. I created a book club. Taylor and I created a book club. Mm-hmm. It's free. They can come and join our book club. And every Friday at 12 noon Dallas, Texas time, okay, we have a free book club where people from all over the world, some of your old cohorts and lifestyle. Yeah. Lifestyle, okay? Some of your old guys in there, these are big time guys that make money. They're involved. There's a lot of people involved. On Fridays, we have the book club. And we have different people talk about how they employed some of the stuff that's in the book and what's happened to them. It's amazing. It's amazing because they're stunned by how simple it is. They're stunned by the fact that they're falling in love with their business again. They feel like they weren't. Most people today, if you don't do this, you don't do that, they don't feel like they're young enough or old enough or tall enough or short enough. You know what I mean? Their story's not good enough. They don't understand they can start where they are today. So we got the millionairetraining.com. Join the free book club. Get in there with us on Fridays and what happens. Now, once they join the free book club, they don't even have to buy the book, okay? They don't even have to. They don't want to buy the book. I'm not interested in buying the book. I don't want their money. I want their learning this stuff. They get a free chapter. That's what the free chapter is. How to employ yourself. Larry 1, Larry 2, okay? Whoa. Now, in this world that we're living in today, with this gig economy, there's only 6 million people in the direct sales space, and almost every multi-level company is competing with the next multi-level company, and it's the same. Who just got the biggest shiny stars right now today? But let me tell you something. There's 6 million people over there. There's 60 million people in this gig economy. Mm-hmm. Gig economy is what? 1099 people that are out there working on their own that will listen to you today where they wouldn't listen before. And if you make it fun, simple, magical with audience language and behavior, they will listen to you and they're going to have a good chance of going with you. So they get the free chapter of the book. And then guess what happens? That gives them a reason to say, I want more of this. They can become part of our academy. I call it ABC. A, it's a three-legged stool. If you got a three-legged stool, guess how many legs you got to have balanced? 3, okay? The first one is the academy. And our academies, come on, it's $40 a month to be able to go get live, interactive meet training and information from Taylor and I. We give at least 10 hours live interactivity every single month with these guys, okay, at different times. The academy, the book, the club, the three-legged stool, okay? And book club is free. If they want to buy the book, $24.95 Amazon. Okay, they want to get into Academy, $40 a month. And today, things are moving so quickly that a day is like a week is like a month is like a quarter. You can't wait. You can't wait because right now we're working on 22. We're not working on 21. So you got to have a great first quarter 22. Well, if you're going to have a great first quarter 22, you got to have a great last quarter 21. Mm-hmm. Guess what you're working on right now in March and April, the last quarter 21. So you can't wait. You got to jump in. This is how fast this is moving, and this is what we're experiencing around the world. And I'm saying the world is changing, the language is changing, and you got to get involved with that. And if it's impossible with ABC, impossible. If you're involved with Academy, got the book, involved in the club, and it's a natural, logical conclusion to get your team involved in this as quickly as possible. They're not going to get sold mastermind groups. They're not going to get sold this retreat. There's a $24.95 book from Amazon. There's a $40 a month from the Academy, okay? That's about, and oh, by the way, you can get the original tape, Millionaire tape that Hugh Mertz out for $10 right there on the spot and get it in your phone. That's it. That's it, okay? Now, the rest of us, is what you know for sure. We're going around the country and teaching everybody. Only we do it at the Academy and we do it at the book club, and we're going around and teaching the 6 pillars of how to apply this stuff. The ranking up, and I hate that phrase because ranking up signifies that you got leadership and your job description changes. You're the same guy the day before you ranked up than you were the day after. You got the same attitude, the same weaknesses, the same strength the day before. Your job description is identically what it was on Friday, Saturday, when you get recognized as ranked, and you think your job description changes because we want it to change. Why? Because we don't want to do what we're sharing with our team to do that they have to do. We don't want to do it. We want to put our feet on the desk and be the coach or the mentor so that to tell us, I couldn't do this without you. You're so special. You care about me so much. Then do what you're telling them that you want them to do. You lead the way and you do it yourself. And how long do you do that? As long as you're a distributor. As long as you're a distributor. I don't care how much money you've got. And I don't care how many, if you're behind the gates, okay? I'm doing this business actively every single day for 53 years, except for the 5 years that I was in bed with chronic fatigue. I love it.
Great, great. Well, Larry, first of all, I want to thank you for mentoring, friendship, 38 years together. We're still going strong. I guess together, so you're going on 53 years, I'm going on 38. So what is that, like 91, I think? That's a long time we've been doing this stuff, but it's still fun. I'm the same place you are. I mean, what else are you going to do when you can impact people and most importantly, impact that last generation? So let me ask you that one last question, okay? Young people who are looking at this industry, that 25-year-old kid that's sitting on mom and dad's couch right now, right? All the skills, all the ideas, all the, piss and vinegar that a 25-year-old has. They look at this industry, they look at you, they look at me, they look at the people in the book that have all been doing this a long time. Why should they do network marketing instead of all the other choices that the gig economy or whatever may offer them? Why our industry?
Well, network marketing offers something that other things don't. They're out there, but it's residual income. Guess what? Insurance people work off residual income, okay? Investment people work off of residual income. There's 60 million people out here in the gig world, and they're trading hours for dollars for hours. Okay, that's what they're doing. Uber driver is trading hours for dollars, and that's it. Okay. Etsy, Amazon affiliates trading dollars for hours kind of deal. In network marketing, you're trading hours for dollars, but you have a chance of residual income. Okay. So that's why I would be looking at residual income as a reason to do multi-level network marketing. But I will tell you right now, the companies that are out there today are distorted. They're distorted. You cannot compete in today's network marketing world doing business the way we've always done it, because they've all changed, because price point is an issue today. Price point, because you can, no matter how great your product is, I don't care if it grows hair, I don't care if it grows muscles or grows breast, okay? And I don't care if it happens in a day. There's another product on the internet that's going to compete with you, and it's going to compete with you in price point, okay? That's what's going to happen. And the way that these companies are structured today, coming out of the past, before the gig economy was in place, before this whole thing was here, okay, they can't compete in price point because they're paying too much money to, quote unquote, the leaders, okay? The leaders and all that money. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. I'm telling you, there's going to be less multi-level companies in the future doing bigger business, okay? Today, we have distributors in our space that are earning more money than we ever thought possible on a monthly, yearly basis, but it's isolated. It's isolated. You're going to have to compete in a bigger market. So you got to know the audience, you got to know the language, you got to know the behavior, and then you find the company that you believe in, okay? You find the product that you believe in, then get involved with us and let us show you how to get that job done. Because I will tell you this, I had a question asked of one of your old cohorts just yesterday. We have an educational product, and you do a lot of work with nutritional products. Will this work the same way with our educational product as that works with the nutritional product? And I said, of course. And they said, well, how does that happen? And I said, because 80, 15, and 5, which I'm not going to develop here, but you understand that completely. It's the same no matter if you have an educational product or a nutritional product. Audience, language, and behavior is the same if you have an educational product or a nutritional product. Being able to PPP and natural logical conclusion, pillar number 2, is the same. The 4 stories is the same. It's the same no matter what your product is. But here's the other key. It doesn't matter, these concepts and principles, doesn't matter if you're a long-haired hippie, okay, that never finished high school, or you're a young kid like Mark Hughes. Neither one of us finished high school, okay? It doesn't matter. Those things are the same. It doesn't matter if you're a school teacher or an entrepreneur, or you're some kind of guru into a so-called profession. And it makes me crazy when someone says, I have this many years experience. In your case, you've got all that because you've had, just like Jerry Brasfield said, you have all of these life experiences you got into that were sometimes life or death. And you came out the other side, not necessarily on the top, but better and stronger for the next project. You know, that's leadership. So I don't care if you're a school teacher that can't spell gig or can't spell in a multi-level or network marketing. Don't care. All of those principles recognize you the same. They never change. It's how you apply them to your business. So again, I get a little crazy and weird. You don't know if I asked exactly what you were asking, but that's my feelings.
That's a great answer. So Larry, I want to thank you once again. This is John Solider. The name of the show, okay, is Leaving Nothing to Chance. You can go to our website and you can see all the archive material after every one of these shows is done live. Okay, after you've listened to it live, it goes over to Leaving, that's I-N-G, leavingnothingtochance.com. Name of our book, Leave Nothing to Chance. And you're going to find that Larry Thompson wrote some really nice stuff about me as the forward to that book. And you'll read about, once again, a lot of people, a lot of principles in that book. But once again, Leaving Nothing to Chance. Larry, I want to thank you so much, my friend. And God bless you, and continued. The next 53 years are going to be even better than the last 53.
Oh, listen, I'm excited. Okay, I got at least, listen, I'm 26 now in a couple months here, a month and a half, and I got 100 years in me. Okay,
at least.
You know what I mean? I dare someone to come along with us. Come on, put yourself in the middle of this deal. You did. Jeff Roberti did. Tish Rohn did. Mark Hughes did. Okay, Jim Rohn did. Put yourself in this arena with us, and let's go get something done that's magical. This is not guesswork, guys. This is absolute.
Absolutely. Thank you again, Larry.
Thank you.
thank you for listening to this week's episode of Leave Nothing to Chance. If you want to know more about what it takes to succeed in the network marketing space, join us again next week for another amazing episode. For additional resources and to connect with John Solider, visit leavingnothingtochance.com. Don't forget to leave a review, and we'll see you next time.